Hey friends, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back with a new layout for Hip Kit Club. I am making a layout based off of one of our Hip Kit Club Facebook forum sketches, which is this sketch you see here. I'm using the December kits for my layout today, and as you can see here, I have white cardstock for my base, and then I've layered a couple of the Pink Paisley Paige Evans Take Me Away collection pattern papers, and I used one of the exclusive cut files to create that number 4. I also used a stitched circle die to cut out various size circles using another one of the pattern papers from the Take Me Away collection. I knew that I wanted to use a couple of the Amy Tan thickers for my title, but I wanted to apply some color to the words. I wasn't sure how well the spray or the oil pastels would go on, so I used one of the words as a test run. I used the word thank. I knew that I more than likely wouldn't be using that on a layout, so I thought it would be a great way to test out the different forms of mixed media to see what would work best. I found that when I tried to paint the Shimmers mist onto the letters, it didn't absorb and it just sat on top of the surface, kind of beat it up on the surface. So I decided to go with the oil pastels that we received in a color kit a few months ago, and I used the yellow, just colored directly onto the word, and then used my finger to smudge it to make it even across the word. Now I'm adding a little bit of color to the white cardstock. I applied a layer of clear gesso, and then I'm using the no yoking colorings from Shimmers. That was available in the April 2016 color kits, and just use the packaging technique to apply a little bit of color to the background. Now you can see that I flipped those circles over and I'm using the blue side rather than the windows. I've also added some hand stitching around those circles, and I've also added some machine stitching to the layout. I also added my journaling to that number 4 using my We Are Memory Keepers typecast typewriter. I really had a hard time figuring out how I wanted to position things on this layout. As you saw in the sketch, it calls for 3 large photos, and very rarely do I scrapbook a multi-photo layout, let alone having the photos be large. Usually if I'm doing a multi-photo layout, the photos are 3.5 by 3.5 at the largest. So I didn't really have a lot of photos to choose from. I tend to pick my favorite photo from an event and scrapbook that photo, but I came across these pictures of Aiden. They were taken on his 4th birthday, and he was making all of these silly faces and smiling kind of crazy, and I liked how they all looked. I wanted to use them all, so I put them into a photo collage and just created, it's all printed on a 4x6, but they're 2x2 squares. I've added another layer of pattern paper. That pattern paper is from Echo Park, and it's this really pretty mint color with these silver foiled polka dots. I've also added my title, Crazy Smiles. That is from the Amy Tan thicker sheet. These asterisks are also from the Amy Tan thicker sheet, and I'm using that yellow oil pastel to color them just to add a little bit more visual interest and to help them pop off the page. Now it's at this point, I'm really not loving how this is turning out, but I decided to go ahead and just start adhering things down. I figure I'll just go with it, keep adding things, and maybe I'll change my mind. I do use my fingers to ruffle up those edges, but once I get them ruffled and torn, I realize I don't like that either. So I'm going to flatten them back out and try to hide some of those torn edges. I bring in a few enamel dots. I add those thinking that'll help add a little bit of interest. But I'm still just not happy with how this is turning out. It was one of those layouts that I just felt like it was missing something, but I couldn't really figure out what it was or what I wanted to change. So I'm going to go ahead and get the photos adhered down, and then I decide just to walk away from the layout for a little bit and come back and check it and see if there's something else that I've thought of to add to the layout, and maybe I'll like it a little bit more. But when I come back to check it and look at it again, I decide that I really just don't like it, and I go ahead and start tearing it apart. A lot of the pattern papers tore when I was lifting them up. The journaling card that had the number 4 on it, it tore also. I end up just trimming off the number 4 and then just trimming the pattern papers down to size. It almost looks like a journaling card now, and I'm still going to use that as my journaling spot. I also thought that I needed to add another color to the mixed media. I felt like there was just a little bit too much yellow going on. So I use a few of my mists and try to combine them to recreate that same mint color that I have going on in the layout. But when I apply it to the yellow, it ends up being more green than I like. So then I'm trying to cover up that green with that yellow oil pastel, and I just am not liking how this is turning out, so I decide just to start completely over. So I'm going to try to save as much as I can from this layout. I lift as many of the pattern papers up and just try to salvage as much as I possibly can. I'm going to go ahead and start with a new white background, and I'm using the no yoking colorings for the mixed media again, but I did not apply any gesso to the paper this time. I wanted the color to absorb a little bit more, so it wasn't quite as vibrant as it was the first time around, so I didn't feel like there was too much yellow happening and that it was just a subtle addition in the background. I also tried to make the mixed media not as large as it was the first time. I tried to make the colors a little bit more condensed in those certain areas because I'm going to have quite a few yellow accents with the title and those asterisks. So I knew that I didn't need the mixed media to be quite as large or quite as pronounced as it was the first time around. So I went ahead and added the hand stitching again and also added the machine stitching through those pattern papers. Next, I'm going to bring in one of the stickers from the Amy Tan Thickers pack, and I'm going to use that oil pastel to color it in also. I'm going to add that heart thicker to the journaling spot just to add a little bit more interest and to create a visual triangle with those yellow thickers. I have the 2 asterisks towards the top, and then I also added that heart onto the journaling. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the photos adhered down. You can see that I reprinted those in black and white and trimmed them down to the 2x2 squares with a small white border. I felt like this was a nice substitution to the 3 photos that you see in the sketch. So I'm going to make sure that everything is straight by using my T-square ruler, and then I'm going to bring in those black enamel dots. I thought about adding black splatters instead of the enamel dots, but I was a little worried that the splatters wouldn't land where I wanted them or that they would be too concentrated in one area, so I felt like the enamel dots were the safer option, especially since I had already started this layout over a couple times. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with some still shots. Remember to head over to the Hip Kit Club Facebook forum to check out the sketch again and to also check out the other design team members' interpretations. Remember, you do not have to be a subscriber to join us in the forum. It is linked in the description below, so make sure you head over there and check it out. I will be back again with another layout and another process video later this week. As always, thank you so much for watching.